So day one, recap, just really quick, was, understanding that business problems are actually personal growth problems in disguise. And when it comes to pricing, money, sales, it couldn't be more true than in that arena. It really confronts us where we are, how we think about money, how we think about pricing. It also shows us how we value ourselves or don't value ourselves. And so keep that in mind as we move along and when things come up for yourself. If you were here, the first day actually I had you have 3 columns, and I talked about it yesterday. 1 for your reaction, 1 for your client reaction, and 1 for your audience or potential clients that you would like to work with in the future. And so as we move along on day 3, we're also going to keep that running column. And so yesterday we talked about the frameworks, didn't we? We talked about in general that 1, the framework, you have to decide that you're going to raise your prices. And through day 1 and day 2, the concept is we're going to double our income by doubling our pricing starting, Monday. But for the sake of those of you that are just here today, starting today, and what that reaction gave you and what it will do as we move along. So the first framework is to decide. The second one is, what are your thoughts and reactions and even the logistical pieces of your business? How does that affect your current clients, and how does that affect clients moving forward? Meaning, are you thinking you'll have no clients? So what is the psychological piece, the neuroscience piece of what's going on for you, and then the positioning and strategy all at the same time? The other piece was pricing versus alignment, making sure that was going on for you. Then the 2 most important questions were, who do you need to be in this moment to double your prices starting tomorrow? And the second question was, what does your business look like starting tomorrow if your prices are doubled? And then the value of your offer, which is so important, the emotional piece of your value in the offer besides the results you give, and then knowing how to have trust, how to speak the language of trust and confidence to be able to say that price and sit in it and not have any glitches at all, so no one can see that there's anything going on with your energy, because money is energy also. And if you have any glitches about saying your prices, the other person does feel it. They just don't know what that is. So that takes us to today. And then today, we're going to talk a lot about what are some of the things that get in the way of people wanting to make changes when it comes to pricing and their money and growing their business. Hello there, Instagram. And what also, how do you understand that? Is it too much for you to take on? And why would that be too much for you to take on? And then we'll do a little bit of a demo so you can see how simple it is and where you can start today, actually. Paving a pathway to be able to increase your pricing so you have that money freedom that you want in your business, because it's really about creating a life and building a business that is valuable so it can give you the life that you want to live in the moment today, moving forward 5 years from now, 10 years from now. Really, success well lived in the definition of what it is for you, but also not based on any of your fears, stuckness, afraid of taking any calculated risk. I'm a big proponent of risk, but calculated risk, the right kind of risk, the right fit risk, because sometimes people in their desperation will buy a program or a course or something. So this has got to be it. And it's not a good fit for them. It's just not. And so we waste a lot of money because we don't think about that component. And then we waste our time. And then we're frustrated and we go back into the feelings of lack. No one's going to pay me. No one's going to pay my prices. You're asking me to raise my prices, Lorianne? My goodness, I can't even get people to buy me at my current price, which of course is something that a lot of feedback I've gotten is, well, there's a reason for that. And it's tied to all the things we're talking about. It's the non-belief that, first of all, that your pricing, people aren't willing to pay it. And why is that? Why do you think that? Are you looking at other people? Are you looking at the gurus and you're comparing yourself with not the right people, which you shouldn't compare at all, because really you're a unique human being. But at the same time, we can't help it with everything that's on LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, everything, all the emails we get. I mean, people are always saying, oh, build to 7 figures, build to 8 figures, do this, do that. Well, if it was that darn easy, why aren't the 80% of you that are under $100,000 doing it? It's not because of that technique they're going to show you. It's just an internal piece, and money is that biggest factor. So a lot of false beliefs is, Lorianne, I've done this before. I've done it before. And I go, really? Then why didn't it change? Why didn't it change? Did you skip something? Was there a process that you thought was going to go fast and you didn't have to look at yourself? That's why so many people want tools and techniques, because it's the easiest way to get a result. And they do work. So I am not going to trash anybody else's program, because it does work for the right fit people for that person. And so that's the difference. And did you not believe that you could do that work? Which is the other thing that happens, because really, like I've said the last 2 days, if we just Google it, we kind of know what to do. We do need a mentor. We do need a guide. We don't need one 100% sometimes. That is my belief, but I do believe in hiring people to help you, whether, depending where you are in your business. But you have to really pay attention to, if you take some leaps, you have to spend some time integrating that leap. And if you don't take time integrating that leap, what happens is it quickly comes back down to where you were before. The other day I was saying I've done some strategic work for a lot of the bigger coaches out there, business coaches and life coaches in the back end, around some of this work, and also the sales piece for them at some of their events or their challenges. And what we're always looking at is how quickly someone comes on the scene, all of a sudden they're like the best next thing to slice bread, right? And they're all over the place. Most of the time, that's a 10-year process. It is not something that happens overnight. I've only seen 2 of those people in the last 10 years, and those 2 had millions of dollars to invest in everything right before they open the doors. So you have to think about that. Most of us start from scratch and we don't get that kind of money. I would love $1 million before I started my business. Boy, that was a leg up, right? So you have to remember that. But there's so many people that get to $1 million. That 7-figure is something that tends to be common in the coaching industry and in some other businesses. And what happens, they get there, and there's this psychological rest that they do. And the next thing you know, they've lost half of their income because they didn't spend time integrating it and doing the kinds of processes where they could repeat it over and over again. So 2 things happen. One, they don't integrate and they don't make $1 million the year after that and the year after that. You really do need to spend at least 2 years when you get to a big number, whether your number is $500,000 a year or $1 million a year. So you don't psychologically rest and then catch yourself seeing your income going down and not realizing until it's too late. And then you're not $1 million business. And the other thing is that crash and burn. They keep going and crash and burn, and then they're done. You have to look at the people that have been around for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years that are really out there and have been in business for a long time and have made money consistently year after year. That's what you're looking for. You are really looking for someone that has done that. But for yourself, even if you are getting to 100 or 200,000, those numbers, every 100,000, take some time to celebrate, take some time to integrate that and say, I am worth that. And I know this is some psychological stuff, but it's what sits in front of us all the time, because we're not robots, we're human beings. So we have to attend to the psychological piece at the same time as the strategy. And then always looking back at what worked the best, what was a waste of my time, and what should we be doing moving forward. The one thing or the two things, no more than three, that we did best, that we do over and over for the next year to 2 years to make sure we've nailed this big leap. That's more at the 100,000. You don't have to wait 2 years every 100,000. But when you get to the 500 mark and the million, this is what I'm talking about. And the interesting thing in business nowadays, because of all the technology and how you can come in and build a business starting from nothing, is that it's much easier nowadays to get to $500,000 and $1 million. And a little side note, you probably don't want to get any more than 3 million, because after that you become a big company, you need large team. So $1 million to 3 million to me is a nice goal, no matter where you land. Keep that in mind, because it's something that's doable and that gives you high profit. After that, you're into volume and not as much profit. So just wanted to say that. So another thing is, will it be too much work? Well, it's only too much work when you do the same thing over and over again, and you don't have any changes, right? You don't have any changes. You know, for the last year, 2 years. I mean, this is really common, folks. This is what I've had my own stuckness, so I am not judging anybody, but after a while, you have to say, the common thread here is me. What do I need to change, right? What do I need to change to double my prices? What do I need to, hey, Dagmar, nice to see you. Let's see, it will wave back to her. She was waving at me. And so you just have to think about what it is that you keep doing. And are you listening too much to the outside world and not listening enough to yourself? I think that was the turning point for me after my divorce, was to know that I could trust myself, and so many people don't trust themselves. There are new technologies out there, and you may want to try them, but make sure you don't get caught up in too much technology. Because what I said yesterday, the more technology you bring on, the more human connection you need, because we're human beings. So yes, you can do this. It's a simple process. And the other thing that people voice a lot is they blame their lack of success on so many things. So this is a common thread I hear a lot. I didn't have the right social media. I'm not visible enough. And all those pieces have some truth in it, but it doesn't mean that you're just replaying the same stuckness over and over again. And I want you out of that so we can find the right strategy for you. I want you to have the right type of business for yourself, the right income, the right amount of time you want to work. A lot of my clients want to go from 5 to 4 days and eventually 3 days a week, where they're working in that middle week. And they've got 4 days after that to do what they want, or to do some writing. A lot of my folks are speakers and writers also, besides coaches, consultants, and strategists. So we want that. And why sometimes when I say double your prices starting tomorrow, I said it yesterday, and I love doing it because it's kind of a smack in the face a little bit for you to have a reaction, so you know where you're starting from. Is yes, you can do it. You really can do it. Maybe some of you will have to go 25% more first, or every 6 months for a while. Everyone's got a different plan. That's important to realize, because we're talking about money. It's customized to you when you work with us, because everyone's different. And at the same time, they're the business fundamentals we always have to be thinking about. So I just kind of want to say this because it popped in my mind. You cannot build a business without asking for business in some way. A lot of times people come to me and they want to work with me and they say, don't have me ask for business, Lorianne. I don't want to ask for business. I want to attract business. Absolutely. But you can't attract business unless if you're repelling it with your own stuckness, that you can't do it. It's too much work because all that energy gets thrown out there. Even if you try to not portray that in your posting on social media, your emails to folks or whatever, that energy comes through. It really does. And it's based on neuroscience and it's based on psychology. And I talk a lot about that. And people say, just tell me the tools and techniques. And I wish it was that simple. So we know that. So people that love working with me understand that they're talking about themselves, their energy, their psychology, their neuroscience. And I want you to know that right now we're going to do a little exercise because I just popped in my mind. And I think it'll be good to do for today because we're talking about false beliefs. You can't do it. Who else are you blaming? A lot of times I hear the spouse remark, I can't do it because my spouse won't let me. A lot of times that's a camouflage for people. And it's okay to say, does that mean that person is running your business? So there's ways to have conversations with folks when you see those false beliefs from others. But no, a lot of times when you see a false belief from somebody else, there's a little bit of reflection in you, right? There's a little bit of reflection in you, and you've got to ask yourself, where am I playing that out? It may not be with a spouse. It may be in some other format. So know what feedback you get from others is a little bit of what's going on with you. Okay, so I want to do this. I want to do this simple process, but we're going to do the exercise first. And I'm going to ask you a series of questions. And so just play along where we have to put a name in, where I say my name, you're going to say your name, and I'll repeat the question twice. And then you answer it, and I'll give you some time. Because I really want you to get in the framework of where we're going with this. And then how can you logistically and practically start this process, because we still have to live in the world of practicality and logistically. So here's the first question you want to ask yourself. You want to say pricing. How are you being treated in this relationship with Lorianne? So those of you on Instagram, those of you here on Facebook with me and Zoom, you want to ask this question with your name. So pricing. How are you being treated in this relationship with, put your name in. So what does that bring up? That brings up like, oh, I'm thinking, how am I treating my pricing? Did I just decide to use this pricing because that's what someone else that's a coach like me or has this product? Did I just copy somebody else? So when you copy someone else, what happens? You don't have your own energy behind it, your own power, your own confidence. So, I would suggest you ask these questions after we get off today also, so you can play with this. So the second question is, are we ready? So pricing, how is this affecting you? So we're taking pricing on as a living entity, and we're asking pricing, our pricing, how is that affecting you? Is it keeping you in lack? Is it keeping you from thriving? Is it keeping what fear? Is your pricing based on fear? Does pricing have fear associated with it? And again, all those things show up in our offers. And when we talk to people, and because they're part of us, our business is a living entity. So our pricing becomes a living entity through us because we are the business. Even if you sell products and you're not selling services, it's still part of you. And that's why people say you can't sell to everyone, because you're unique in who you are and you attract your right fit clients, like I talked about yesterday. All right, so question number 3 to ask yourself is pricing. What old money stories do you hear from Lorianne that come from parents, spouses, or friends, or colleagues, or mentors? And how is that affecting you? Pricing. What old money stories do you hear from your name that come from parents, spouses, friends, colleagues, coaches, and mentors? That they are saying meaningful, they want to be helpful. Most people want to be helpful. Sometimes we have people that don't want to be helpful, but that's really a reflection of something in them, as we know. And so you want to kind of get an idea if you're listening, not to yourself, but through the lens of others. Now, it's good to get advice. Don't get me wrong. We need business advice, but always through our own lens without any of our fears, stuckness, false beliefs. It's just important to know that. Okay. Question number 4. Do you want to say pricing? Does Lorianne treat you how does Lorianne treat you in your business? Does it sound familiar? And I kind of alluded to that when I asked the third question. So pricing, how does your name treat you in their business? And does it sound familiar? I love talking about this stuff. And it's okay to love money, because money gives us not the things, but money gives us freedom. And whatever that defines for you, it's what money gives us in terms of our lifestyle, not that we're greedy. So that's another thing that comes up a lot in our false belief. Oh, if I ask for money, people will think that I'm just greedy, or I just don't want to put myself and bother them. There's all kinds of stuff that comes up. So these questions are here to create what comes up for you, so then you can do the right strategy and position yourself well. And your messaging changes. And that's what we're going to talk about after this last question. So question number 5 is your name. So Lorianne, let's change pricing's answers to those money stories. So now what I want you to do, so I'll repeat the question again because I went a little fast. Your name, let's change pricing's answers to those stories that work for you. What could work for you? So all of the first 4 questions were to elicit what's going on for you. You don't have to spend a lot of time. This is something that a lot of people ask me, does that mean, Lorianne, like I have to be in therapy forever? No, I don't want you to be in therapy forever. And actually, that's the thing when you're a business owner, we just have to pay attention to it. And through that lens, and then we get to do all the strategies and the positioning, because we've got you in the right place. And so then it becomes quicker. So when we don't attend to it, that's when we slow our business growth down, and we're afraid to do some things. And sometimes when some of the proprietary work that we do in our programs and how we get that out quicker, what my clients are so amazed at is what they thought was in the way turns out not to be in the way. It's something else. And so that's what's always great about this work. All right. So I would suggest whatever came up for you, that you reframe it as positive as possible without a lot of Pollyanna stuff, because we also want to be practical, because we live in this world. I love being in the optimistic, the energy, and the psychological pieces, but I also know you got to pay your mortgage. You got to pay your technology bills. You've got to whatever you need your money for, and then you want to pay yourself. So 80% of entrepreneurs don't pay themselves. How is that possible? And I always, when someone tells me they haven't paid themselves in 10 years, I say, why? Why would you keep going without changing anything? But it happens all the time. It's because people are scared, and when you're scared, you're stuck. And I'm using some general words. Some of you might have some different pieces that are going on because your background, what adult experiences that changed you. I mean, it all comes to play. So reframe it in such a way that has the energy around getting it done and the practicality of getting it done. So let's take something. Let's look at question number one. So pricing, how are you being treated in this relationship with Lorianne? So if I'm not thinking my pricing from a value standpoint, I am just like casting my pricing away because it's just any old thing. So how can I reframe that? So when I reframe it to, I add value at the highest level for my clients, and they easily pay that value. So what does that say? It says you're bringing value to the table through your offer. That's who you are, and they are paying you easily because they recognize it and they trust you. Remember in day two, I said trust, the emotional component, and they have to know that you've got their back. Really, really important. So that's the kind of reframing I want you to do on whatever comes up through 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right. So you've got a baseline. You can do more of this work later. I want to talk a little bit about how you can take those answers and start showing people value out there in the marketplace based on your reframe of what you are wanting in your business. So usually it's about value, getting paid, not being afraid to ask. So I'm going to start with your messaging. So when I ask you to double your prices starting tomorrow, and there's some of that feedback, that internal feedback, you want to say to yourself that question, who do I have to be able to do that? Even if I'm a CEO of one, this is really important because you're not the CEO of everything, or you may have a part-time VA, however that goes. But think about who do you have to be and start talking about that. Do a couple posts around, I realized, I don't let people know that I really bring a lot of value in my offers. And so I want you to know about this one thing in my offer. And it's a Facebook post, an Instagram post, it's a video, however you're out there. You do have to be visible as much as possible. Doesn't mean you have to do everything around. I got a question around social media. It doesn't really fit into this training, but I am going to answer the question and how I do mine, so I don't have to spend a lot of time on it. But start talking about it. Do a short video, make it part of who you are, make your value known in a way that you're just having a conversation with people. So when you're having a conversation with people, there's that connection piece. The post is casual. Start that way, not putting yourself down and say, oh my God, I just realized I wasn't talking about value and how stupid of me. And I know you wouldn't say it, but you may give that energy off. I don't want you to do that. So you can start talking about that. Sending an email. Last week, I think I sent in my newsletter, I said, when I was a psychotherapist, I didn't have any clients, back in the day when we didn't have all this, we had to have we had our rent on our office. We had to put a phone system in. I had to have an answering service or part-time person. So I had to pay all this money up front and no one was coming in the door. Now, as a psychotherapist, if you decide to you either marketed yourself back then by giving talks at hospitals or organizations, or you went on insurance panels, or you did a little bit of both. I did a little bit of both at the beginning, but that takes time. But what I really concentrated on was how can I be valuable to people? Because my road to being a therapist was all because I didn't get the help I needed way back in the day. And so I remembered that. And when you keep the valuable thought, how can you be valuable all the time to your clients, your audience? You talk about what's valuable to you and what the offer is. So I want you to start doing that on social media, on a video, or in your emails. I do it both ways. And it's really important to show people in a way that's conversational and emotionally connected and has a practical point. So when you write the post, you have to have something that gives connection. You have to have an emotional, some emotional words so people do connect further. And then you have to have a practical statement and how that they can do it for themselves or how you did it for yourselves. So I'm going to answer the social media question right now because I think it's really important. So for folks that I had like 4 or 5 questions like that. So what I do is I write a blog. I pull my quotes from my blog. I then write my emails based on my blog and my newsletter. I connect people to here's the blog of the week. Here's the audio that I did of that. So I use the blog to drive everything else. And I do have a theme for the month for myself. And sometimes it's for a couple months, but I want you to know you don't have to make your social media difficult. Do one piece of writing or a video, transcribe it, and then run everything off of that for the next couple weeks. And then you don't have to think about what you're posting out there. And so if you want to double your prices, start talking about the value you bring. And if you don't know what the value is, let's go back and turn one of these questions is, value. What is it that you see in me? What and play with that value. What is it that you see in me? Because it's you that brings the value to the table and it turns into the results you bring. And then from the results, people know that you can do it for them, but you've also emotionally connected with them, and they were able to trust you because the results came in because you had their back. It's the most important thing. All right, so you're going to start posting about it, and I would suggest starting. I'll give you 4 weeks. So let's say right after Easter or May 1st, around there. Let's add some money to your offer, and let's increase your offer pricing. And then for the next few weeks, what would this offer have to do? What would I have to do to bring value to that pricing, to that offer? And if you're low because you think people want cheap pricing, they say it, but you and I know that you'll make an offer, let's say at $1,000, and they turn around and pay someone $10 for the same thing. So it's not that. There are people that have no money. And a good question is asked when they say, no, I don't have any money, is to say, well, does that mean you don't have money right now, or you don't have money for food and rent or mortgage? That'll tell you where this person is, and then you know how to give them value. So if they can't even pay their food and mortgage, and let me tell you, there are a lot of entrepreneurs out there like that. I've worked enough events to know that when we make an offer, someone will say, I'm eating off of the free breakfast bar at the hotel, and I'm sleeping in my small trailer out in the parking lot. I couldn't believe this woman told me, and had come to this 3-day event and she says, well, how much is the offer? And of course, I didn't want to tell her because I felt bad for her, but I did that. And she goes, you know what? My mother's will is in probate, and I'm coming into some money. So if I had hesitated, I did hesitate, but my point is, if I hadn't gone forward, I wouldn't have known that story. She goes, it may be taking 8 weeks. Can you keep up with me? And because I really want to do this program. So my point is, number one, you never know about money with folks. So, and then the other thing, people lie about money all the time. They just do. And you know what? It's mostly cultural. We've been set up culturally and in our families and stuff. And so when you know that, and they don't mean it. So I know that not from a position of thinking they're rotten people, because I don't. I just know they're going to do it. It's like asking the question, well, what is your average monthly income? Because that's a common question for me to ask because of the type of work I do. And They go, well, and it takes them 5-10 minutes to answer. And I'm thinking, well, all you have to do is look at your checking account, right? Your business account. But people, it's hard for them. It is really hard. So they put in all those white lies. We'll call them white lies for now, to protect them. It's not about you. It's about protecting them. So if you know that about others, think about where you might be doing that too when you're in a conversation with someone to protect yourself because you're scared. You probably know you need this at some level. And so you're going to protect yourself around your money. So unless they have no money, the offer I always give, well, you know what? I would love for you to be on my email list. I have, we're starting this monthly training series. We'll be doing it monthly now on different topics. You can come to that. I offer all my free stuff and have them really be taken care of that way. And then I always do a follow-up. I do a follow-up call 3 to 6 months, depending how the conversation goes, just to make sure that they're enjoying what they're seeing, and they might have some feedback. But after that, I let that go unless they come to me, because I can't give them money. They have to really realize that they're being a victim of money at that point, and they have to do the things. I do give them a free few tips on what they can do right away, and they have to believe that they can do that. We all go through tough times for different reasons. And financially, I've been there several times, twice, where, I really appreciated the McDonald's dollar menu when it came to food, when I was in a tough financial situation. But it has to be temporary. And you cannot, even like with the pandemic, you cannot be victimized by what's going on in the outside, because we can't control it. We have to say, I'm not going to be a victim of this situation. And what is the next right thing for me to do? And here's where my training, other psychotherapists prior to doing this business has come in well, is that most coaches or strategists or anyone that is in the advice business wants to take someone from the beginning right away to the end. Oh, we're just going to do this and we're going to fix everything for you. And as long as you follow the steps. But that person can't think that far. And so you have to always say to them, and for them to ask themselves, what is the next right step? Not 2 steps beyond that, not 10 steps beyond that, because we all know the process is the learning piece of it. And then that learning drives our emotions, and then it drives our actions. And so eventually, someone that's in that dire need of money knows that they are taking some steps and building confidence in doing everything they can. And so, unfortunately, not everyone does everything they can. And I'm not talking about working 24/7. I don't want to do that. And even I worked harder when I didn't have any money. When my money was tied up overseas with my ex-husband, that was one incident. I had to work hard to keep my business, make my mortgage. I did work hard. I worked harder than I do now. But I knew it was temporary. So, but you have to have enough trust in yourself to do the work. And so it's not a magical piece, but it can be quick if you're willing to do it. Let's see, what else do I want to say about when you're trying to get someone, well, not trying, it's not a good word. Trying is not a good word. When you're presenting an investment to someone else. That's how I look at my pricing and my offers. They're investments in themselves. And so when someone has that, I'm going to go back to when someone else says to you, well, I really want to work with you, Lori, and I have no money. And I've already found out that they're not the dire need person, but I asked the question, does that mean you don't have it right now? Sometimes when people say, no, I don't have money, they're just looking at their current bank account or what they spent recently. And then they'll tell me, but we're going on vacation. So there's money. So they give you hints, there's money, but they may not have the money there right now, but it could be coming, because you want to ask about their current clients, what they do, how their money usually flows. They might have savings and they could tap into it until they can put it back. because, my goal was for my people to make money as soon as possible so they can not only pay me, because I don't want any glitches in payment, because that's also an internal reflection. When I first started, I did have that problem, but that is finally, it happens really rare now because I'm more in tune to my right fit clients. That's what happens when you get more in tune with pricing and offers and your right fit clients. That tends to go away. It happens very rarely now. So you have to be an investigator. Remember, you're a problem solver. Your offer is about solving problems or giving people what they need or what they want. And so the other piece of it too is when you're asking these questions, keep in mind what they want right now. And be attuned to that, because the need part comes after. You and I know they need some things that we do that are special, but they can't see that right now. So you can really, in a conversation, any way you're having it, you really have to listen to what they're needing. And remember what I talked about yesterday, what is really the big picture? It's not the money I'm giving, teaching them how to get in their business and scale and double their prices. It's actually the lifestyle that it gives them and the lack of worry. So you have to figure out that next piece for all your people and with your pricing. So it's really, really important on that. So really, it's about money freedom, time freedom, lifestyle freedom for so many people. And if you're a health coach, I don't talk a lot about health because that's one of my struggles. I'm not an expert there. I've always, I have crappy skin. I've had to work at it. All kinds of things. And that's just where I don't have any zone of genius, but I try to learn things all the time. And I've tried different products and, it's just what I do, but people want health also. My point is, so even if you're not a health coach, but there's something that you do that helps someone stay healthy, then yes, talk about that. Actually, some of my meditations that I work with people on, because I do a few meditations for folks, because I find it really calms them, because you want your people to be calm on the inside when the evidence is not there on the outside, because if they're not calm, that fears up. It's hard to change the evidence on the outside. So some meditation, some of the proprietary exercises that we do and how we handle our folks for that really helps them stay calm on the inside until the evidence changes. That's important too. It's important for you and it's important for your own people, no matter what your business is. If you're in the advice, strategy, consulting, coaching, even if you do corporate coaching, it's still the same thing. It's just a different context. Remember that. All right. Well, I have covered everything that I wanted to cover today. Probably. So what I think I'll answer one more question that I got about having a conversation and how to keep yourself calm and not let your fear come up. So remember, when you have a glitch, especially when someone you tell them all about your program and you haven't said the price yet, and you say, do you have any questions? What's the first question they're going to ask you? How much does it cost? I mean, it's just what comes up, right? So what I say to folks is, I'm going to show you where I can help you. I'm going to show you the areas that I think we can really take care of right up front, the things we need to work on that are a little bit longer term, and then I'll go over the pricing with you. What have you done just by saying that for yourself and for them? That question is off the table. So there's no fear around it, because it's not getting in the way in any conversation, or even if you're DMing people about having someone come on. So you always just say it up front, and then you take a lot of negative energy away from that. And so people know they're going to get that answer.